So in this video, I want to talk about this idea that I just recently um, have observed. So this came from me studying, looking into trading. I saw this one guy, he's a profitable trader, and he was talking about um, Taoism and basically kind of like a spiritual interpretation of or for trading. And he also trades a specific strategy. He uses specific concepts, and these concepts come from a guy. They're called ICT concepts, and they come from a guy who has been shown to not be a very, we could say, authentic person. There's a lot of controversy surrounding this person. I think his name is like ICT Trader or something. I'm not gonna go too deep into the specific topic, but I want to talk about the concepts or the observation I just made. So, um, the trader that I first found, who's a profitable trader, he seems to be giving a good message about the importance of not holding too much expectation in terms of trading and being more centered on self-awareness, meditation, etc. Um, so he talks about that, and what I realize is that the concepts themselves that he's using are not bad. Just because the guy that came up with them isn't the best person from an ethical standpoint, doesn't mean that the concepts he brought into the world are bad. So concepts are not indicators, or they live in isolation from the creator, I believe. And so this is basically going to it, like, for example, anybody who is thinking about um, I think this is more so for the people who are interested in ideas, who have ideas that come to their head, and they wonder whether those are good ideas. And so the point here is that you might have a good idea, but the actualization of that idea, the manifestation of that, is going to be more so dependent on your personality or your capacity to channel such a high frequency thing. So, for example, like, people might have this idea or this ideal of the perfect man, and they might be this concept of the perfect man might be something that many people talk about often, but just because these people are involved or find the concept interesting doesn't mean that that concept will manifest to its fullest potential within that individual. And this is very important for people to realize, because, for example, in my journey, I remember I would be attracted to specific concepts like spirituality, and spirituality isn't really a concept. I think more so like higher self, um, values, integrity. I would be attracted to these things, but and so that led me to think that other people who are attracted to these concepts would also share similar traits as I. But that's not the case, and that's something that I'm seeing as time passes. I'm seeing that just because people read the same books as I do, or just because people are interested in similar things as I am, doesn't mean that they are at the same level of understanding or embodiment of those concepts. Just because a person wants to talk about love doesn't mean that they're going to be great embodiments of love and wisdom. Um, and so the concepts live in isolation from the individual themselves. And so this is something that needs to be understood. I think that there's a process here. There's like the concept, there's the manifestation, and then there's the attribution of having, of like seeing these two connect. And people often them mistake mistaking these two things as being the same thing. Just be like, if I have a concept of being wise, it doesn't mean that I am living as a wise being. And so there are other times where I might see people who are moving around in life and they have embodied a very solid state of a specific concept. And so then I can come in and name the concept and differentiate what they're doing, and then that gives them something to, like, oh shit, this is actually really helpful. So it can go both ways, right? So and 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 so that means that you might be a great embodier of concepts. Well, ideally, you would want to be able to do it all. You would want to be able to receive the highest of ideas, that the most highest frequency of concepts, and you would want to then be able to manifest those concepts and embody them in real life. And then you would also want to have more physical manifestations of that, like creations that embody that. So not only are you initiating that idea, you are then manifesting it within yourself, embodying it in the flesh, and then you are producing, creating from that, from those two things, right? And so people can live in these three different categories, and they can be completely disconnected. And I want to point this out for people who, I think there's, I think three occasions in which this is very important and very applicable. The first one being that just because people talk about something or are interested in something doesn't mean that they are going to be embodying that very well. So somebody might be the creator of a concept, might be the generator of the idea, but that doesn't mean that their life's work is going to be a perfect embodiment of the concept itself. They might just be the people who bring the concept to this world, and you are meant to then have the people come in and manifest that concept and bring much more depth and much more color to it. So then this also goes to the example of, like, for trusting people. This is where people say, trust people's actions rather than their words. You want to trust that the fact that if somebody is speaking about love or speaking about wisdom or speaking about any specific concept, just because they speak about it doesn't mean that they know about it. And this is something um, that is very important to understand. It will save you a lot of time, especially when it comes to relationships. For example, with me and my wife was interested in spirituality and all of that, but she doesn't have to know all the concepts that I talk about to understand how a good relationship works. She moves with her intuition and is able to manifest the concept of an ideal relationship that she has in her mind, while I can bring a lot more detail and talk about the step by steps of how this happened. But irrespective, it doesn't matter. We're able to create that harmony. So I just want to add that. And so maybe you're an individual who's trying to connect with people, and you're trying to connect with people based on the concepts that they're interested in, rather than connecting with them through, like, the heart, which has more to do with in alignment with who you truly are, versus what you speak about. And this can be elaborated on more fully in the future, but I just want to throw that out there for people, because I feel like this needs to be talked about. The second point in which this is very important is going to be when it comes to your ideas, like for yourself. So you can have a concept, and it could be a great concept. It feels like a great idea, and it could be anything. It could be like the idea of creating some like a video, like a YouTube video, and that's great, but now you have to manifest that. And so there's a process of bringing that forward into your life, and the best way to bring it forward is to refine your inner self. You have to understand that as a vehicle, there's different things. Like, your mind might have received the concept, but that doesn't mean that emotionally you are stable enough to embody that concept, right? It takes a lot of internal work, a lot of purification for you to be able to live that specific concept, live that specific idea. So this is where anybody who's interested in realizing the ideal exists. There's another point that needs to be made. The ideal can be realized in this world. Paradise can exist in heaven. This is our opportunity to create heaven on earth. But the only way to do that is gonna be through your refinement of your internal vehicles. So if you don't dedicate yourself to purifying yourself, to working steadily with that ideal, then it will not happen, and it can only exist up here rather than in here on this earth in the flesh. So it's very important for those who wonder whether the ideal is something worth thinking about. It is very much worth thinking about. In fact, it is more so worth embodying, and that's how important this becomes, right? And then the third point, I was just gonna say that that the concept is irrespective of the individual. They exist in isolation. So it's just important for you to not also glorify either one. Don't glorify the concept so much, and don't glorify the individual that brought the concept either. It's more so it's more so going to be a collaborative approach. You know, you might have somebody that has a concept, and then you might have somebody that's living the concept, and so these people, two people who can come together, are going to be the ones that really bring a lot of more solidity to the idea itself. And this also means, which this is where I was leading to, that you don't require proof of concept. A concept does not require proof, especially if it is a new and novel idea. The concept will evolve through time as it is embodied. So, for example, for me, like a lot of people wonder, like whether something is possible. You know, for me, I was like, is it possible to attract my dream wife into my life? And so internally I said yes, and I trusted in that very much. But I had never seen anybody in my life do that. But it didn't matter. I had the concept in my mind, and because the concept existed, because the idea existed, it meant that I could manifest that into my life. Um, so so I just want to point that out also, is that, like, if you have an idea, it might just be a great idea. The issue lies more so in how it's going to play out in the real world. That's the tricky part. But um, but just because you haven't seen it somewhere else doesn't mean it can't happen for you. Doesn't mean it can't manifest, or doesn't mean it's not a good idea. And so that's why you must be very steadily focused on your internal resources, on in who you truly are, for guidance. Because if you're only depending on the outside circumstance to tell you whether this is a good concept or idea, or waiting for somebody to prove it to you, then you're never going to make it happen. You're never going to actualize it. And so you're going to really be cutting yourself off from your true power. So there is work that needs to be done. And if this idea has arrived to you, then it might mean that you just need to do the work to bring it into this world. Yeah, that's it. Hopefully this was helpful. It was a little more in depth, but food for thought. Okay, thank you for tuning in. You know it's your boy. Stay lucid. Peace.